Hello, my name is Brett Hoffman. I'm here to do just a quick run through of the Ultimate Asteroid Tactical Control game that I have created. Uh, the game is in a state where I have done as much as I can to the best of my ability. As of this recording, you can see it is 12:02 a.m., just a little bit after the assignment was supposed to be due, but this is the best I was able to come up with all the time I spent. Jumping right into it, I have the project open in an editor here. For the sake of the game being able to run, we have created a small field of play, as well as a number of prefab assets that enable the player to fight off the incoming asteroids and enemy ships, as well as dodge the incoming streams of bullets from the gunships while trying to get them away from the screen if they're being too much of an issue. Jumping into the actual gameplay itself, everything is working as far as tank controls, asteroids that will target the player's location when they spawn. Some of the verticality of them appears to be wonky to an effect, and in regards to the enemy ship prefabs, as well as the gunner ship prefabs, they have a slight issue due to the fact that I was not able to figure out the Quatrian, I believe, was the name of the script that we were expected to try and work with, but I instead used the parameters that causes them to look towards the player, and that causes their image to flip on a specific axis. In the example footage of the game here, the way that it is set up, you may be confused why I'm not taking damage or respawning when I'm hit by anything at the moment. That is because I am technically out of lives, and at this point the game would run the quit application part of the program, and to that extent, I do not have a working version of the build to show you because I was not able to get the build itself to work. Jumping a little bit further into the code, as well as going one by one through the checklist, the tank controls are mirrored here in the player program, including the left arrow being held down, rotating the player to the left, right arrow rotating the player to the right, and the up arrow moving them forward inside the play area. The shoot functionality works in the same way that we have set it up. The gunship uses a similar version of the shoot command that enables it to fire once every update, which was originally expected to be a problem just due to the fact that I was not able to find a reasonable way to set up a timer, so that way the AI would only shoot once every second or two. But instead, I managed to create sort of a laser that deters players from getting too close to a specific corner of the screen at one given time. Moving on down the list, underneath our game manager, we have the lists that enable the player enemies as well as the gunner enemy to spawn and do what they need to do. It spawns the player in here, spawns the enemies into different spawn points. The regular enemies follow the random spawn positions, while the gunners will always spawn the exact same spots in one random corner of the screen. Only one can spawn at a time, and that is determined by the same program or the same line of code that determines the enemy spawning. I'm just moving down a little bit. One thing that is missing from the game manager is the player lives counter. I chose to do that code inside of the player script, in which I messed around with the die command and the onToLisionEnter 2D command, where it references the public float of lives, and if lives is greater than 0, it will subtract 1 and position the player to the center of the screen. It's a little bit of a rushed solution, but I was not able to find a way to clear the screen the same time that this happens. And the moment that their lives hit 0, the game will run the command die, which force quits the application. We have the Ontriggerenter and Ontriggerexit 2D, both seen in the Ontriggerenter working for the player collision, enables the player to take a death, and for the safe area, that is the Ontriggerexit 2D as shown. If I can find my way back to the list here. The meteors, as shown, follow the fire and forget, or aim once and then move forward tracking that we were told to implement, while the enemy ship will follow the heat-seeking command, or the heat-seeking setup. The random range is set up here in Game Manager. As you can see, it will spawn the gunner on a random position, and it will also spawn a random enemy when applicable to one of those random spawn positions. The random inside unit circle is applied to the spawn enemy new position line of code, so that way whenever an enemy is spawned, they are spawned within a specific random point of their actual spawn location. The destroy on collision is something that I do not have implemented simply because from my time working with the code, I was not able to find a way to destroy the player object as well as bring it back to the center. For whatever reason, most of the time when I set up the code to destroy the player object and then attempt to bring it back in its normal starting location as a way to create extra lives, it simply did not work the way I intended. So the only instance of on destroy, or just destroy in general, is when bullets collide with the enemies and the asteroids, they will be destroyed. The destroy after the delay can be seen in the unique part of my game, the gunship itself, as well as the player's own bullets. Due to the change in bullet speed, it limits the range of the gunship, which creates the short-range lasers seen in the actual demonstration. This allows for players to have free movement if they choose to avoid the gunships, or the ability to pick them off from a reasonable distance, and they of course will die if they are too close and get hit by any of the bullets. Continuing on, instantiate is used inside Game Manager, as well as the, or no, it's all of this is inside Game Manager. The player is instantiated into the game at the beginning, as well as both the gunner ship and the asteroids or enemy ships are instantiated in very similar lines of codes. I cannot say that's bug and error free. I did my best to comment out some of the more important stuff, such as explaining the specifics of the gunner spawn, as well as things like killing the player when they run out of lives, rotation for the player, and other comments that are just leftovers from the project itself. Had I had a little bit more time and wasn't struggling so much with certain things, such as the preferred turning method or preferred tracking method that we were expected to use for the enemy AI, I could have spent more time on the comments, but for the sake of trying to get this as close to on time as possible, I neglected it a little bit. As far as organization, everything is under the files they should be. Everything is named to what it would attach to. Enemy bullets are shortened down to E-bullets. So we have enemy ships, gunships, safe area, prefabs for all of them, and spawn points that match up so that way the first 4 are the ones that are outside of the boundary and link up to the asteroids and enemies, and the inner 4 link up only to the gunners. And game exceeding minimum requirements, I took the time to create a new version of the prefab and stitch together the enemy ship E-bullets, or the gunship and the E-bullet scripts to create a new enemy type that is stationary and acts as more of a deterrent from the player playing too close to one edge of the screen. And that is all that I have to share. Thank you for watching.